Reminding me, when he came in, he emailed me and said he was going to be here. I expected you last week, actually. But he emailed and remembered. He said, remember when you used to bring in the lights and the heaters? We were there behind what they call the old kettle in the back room. We had no electricity. So every Sunday, one of my duty assignments was to bring in, and Jeannie remembers this, we used to bring in the lights and the heaters, and we'd crowd around. There were like 7 or 8 of us. But anyway, thank you for being here. God bless you. Today we continue to celebrate the month of love. What's kind of wonderful about that is, as we think about it, is what this month is really about is accepting responsibility for our life experiences. That's what it's all about. It's about identifying exactly who and what we are, and how do we put that knowledge and information to good use. So today we're going to be focusing on that. And what I love about PLC is what we learn here and the consciousness that we bring into this place, it affects the world at large. It affects our community. The research shows that if we change the consciousness of just 1.5 or less of the percentage of the individuals in a community, we literally shift the consciousness of the entire community. How many of you believe that? Yeah. So rather than whine about what's going on in the earth, PLC, what we do, we take care of one person, one consciousness at a time, our own. And as we do that, we affect the lives of others. Today, what I want to do is I'm going to move rapidly through this. Yeah. I want to start with the Christian martyr that kind of leads the way, and just briefly talk about the martyr, which is Saint Valentine, because it's coming up. Valentine's Day is coming up. And, you know, this man, Saint Valentine's, believed that there's only one God, and that's a God of love. That's what the belief system was at the time. Now, you might say, well, Angelo, why are you bringing that up now? We all believe that. I mean, that's our strength. That's true. But in the year 270 A.D., it was a capital offense punishable by death. And Roman Emperor Claudius II decreed that there isn't only one God, there's 12 gods. And those of you who do not believe in the 12 gods will be imprisoned and will be put to death. Kind of interesting, isn't it? So Claudia, being the teacher that he was, and he was kind of a new thoughter too. He followed the Christ Jesus, who was the first new thought minister, I think, in my opinion. But he taught love. And while he was in jail, the jailer was really excited about his belief system. My gosh, you mean there's a God of love that's a healing God? That's kind of, he says, would you mind talking to my daughter Julia? Because Julia is what? Blind. So Julia came through, and he spent several sessions with Julia teaching her about the God of love, and she embraced it. And she took it as her own belief, that this God of love loves me and is a healing God. And so one day they were in the cell, and this bright light shone within the cell itself, and Julie regained her sight at that instant. Now, what does that have to do with today? Quite a bit, actually. Because when Bob was up here, Bob had me in tears. I don't know how many of you were when Bob gave his talks last week. My gosh, what an awesome experience. Well, he was defining love as well. And he said it's more than just what we think it is, that it's, physical love. It's wholeness and completeness. It's oneness. And he said our senses lie to us. That's what our problem is. That that our eyes, we cannot see love, in the physical. But if we were able to do that, what we would see when I look out over this audience, rather than seeing separation, because our senses lie to us, and when we deal with the idea of love, it's an idea of separation and judgment. That's on the physical level. But on the spiritual level, when I look over the audience here, I should be seeing, what do we see? Lights. We're photons. We are a light energy. And there's enough science research now that proves this fact. But we are scientifically, we are light energy. So when we look at it, we can really see the reality of the core of who we are. We would see bright lights. And we would see bright lights that's all together, enmeshed into each other. It's a oneness. That's what it really felt. Lynn McTaggart, who wrote The Field. How many of you read The Field? Pretty good book. It's pretty awesome. I had the opportunity to meet her at a conference, and she's an awesome journalist. She's wonderful. But what she said was that at the most elemental part of who we are, the very elementary part of who we are, she said, we are not a chemical reaction. We are an energy source. We are an energetic charge. That's what the core of who we are. Is we're an energy source. And he says human beings and all things are involved in this field of energy. We are not only an energy source, but we are coalescent with all beings, with everything in the universe as an energy source. Pretty awesome, isn't it? And when we really think about this, there's no me or mine. It's just all of us. It is our. And our responsibility is to know that we are attached to, immersed in, and one with this divine energy that we call love itself. Now, as we revisit this year and this month, we need to look at one thing. The spiritual teachers that we are dealing with, like Emmett Fox and those folks, they all tell us that with a universe that is overwhelmed with supply, overwhelmed with this love energy, where we receive everything we would ever need that's available to us, and for us not to experience our greater good, not to experience the awesome support that we would get, it would require that we would actually resist it, that we would actually work against this supply. And so what today is going to be all about, and this month will be all about, is what do we need to do? What does Angelo need to do to experience in a practicality? How can I experience this awesome supply of all of our needs, to be connected to this universal love energy and experience it in my experiences as a human being? What do I need to do? I came out with some interesting things. Ralph Waldo Emerson led the way on this, and I'll quote his statement. The wise man in a storm does not pray for safety from danger. The wise man in the storm prays for deliverance from fear. Does that bring us any ideas on that? So what is it all about then? The idea is this: as we go through this life experience, we are all going to experience the storms of our life. We're here to enjoy the human drama, to actually be a participant and learn how to deal with a limited physical existence, a physical body, as spiritual beings, as unlimited spiritual beings. That's our duty assignment. So the storms in our life are important to us because they aid us and help us understand the human experience as spiritual beings. And it helps us, what I would like to say, grow our soul. But then what do we need to do to do that? I came up with 3 major issues that we need to deal with. How do I experience this life form and not resist it? And so the first one I came out with is really important to me. And one of the goals that I had in this year's manifestation, we put everything in the boxer, was to stop fretting. I need to stop worrying about everything. So the first major issue that we need to deal with when we're talking about not resisting what's there for us is to lighten up. We need to lighten up. What does that mean? It means that we've got to stop taking everything so darn seriously. We really put a label on everything. We look at everything that's happening in our life as a judgment of good or bad, and we just don't accept what's going on. So lighting up is really the important thing. Why are we here? And are we here to experience the storms of life? Absolutely yes. Are we here to let them come through us as experiences and not be attached to them? Yes, it is. We are here to learn to function in a limited body and to experience, as John was pointing out, to experience our creative nature. We're here to experience creativity. And so this idea of lighting up is really key in my experience. We tend to look at everything that's happening as either good or bad, rather than to look at it as it's all good and it's all God. Everything that happens to Angelo is for my greater good. And I may have a judgment call and say this is bad or this is not so good, but the bottom line is it's all good. We can't be, and I always say this at the platform, we can't be half pregnant. We either are or not. We either accept the fact that we are a spiritual entity, that we're connected to all there is, that we are the I am that the mystics call God. We are the I am. We are that bright light that expressed itself in the cell when Julia was healed. That's who we are. And so the bottom line is that we need to lighten up, and a story that illustrates this was pretty cool. This guy named Ben, he's a PLCer. And he wanted to experience his life energies and his experiences, but not attached to them, just to say, oh, these are just fleeting moments. and not put a judgment call on anything. So anyway, it was a Thanksgiving holiday week, and he decides to go to the supermarket to buy his goods, and he walks in the supermarket and it's loaded with all kinds of folks. And every one of the tellers the clerks had these long lines, 8 or 10 people with baskets full of stuff. And he's in the bottom of that line, and the people are grumbling and complaining, and he was in this negative situation, and so the clerk would take a product and go by the machine, and it wouldn't be marked, and then she yelled something in the intercom, something negative to the person responsible for marking. It was really a bad scene. So what he does, and he did this, and I had it here, he takes his shoe. And he starts talking in a shoe. Now the thing here that I want to get through this is a video prop here, is that we can actually take an experience that we deem negative and put a spiritual spin on it. We can actually put a spiritual influence on this. So what he did, because when we're thinking and we're talking, we're actually in the spirituality, aren't we? Pretty much so, as John was saying. That's one of our imagination. So he used that, and he said into his shoe, he says, Martha, this is Ben. You know, I'm in a very negative situation here. He said, I'm in this line, there's all kinds of people, they're all grumbling and they're mad at each other, and the clerk is having a really bad day. She's negative, she's shouting into the mic, she says negative stuff, it's really terrible. So don't expect me right away. In fact, if this continues, it may be 2 or 3 days before I get home. Well, anyway, when we see the shift in consciousness, when we start saying, hey, we can put a spin on this negative thing and not be so attached to the negative, something happened. The clerk started smiling. She started smiling. And pretty soon the one behind started smiling. And then all of a sudden they started talking to each other. And they started hugging each other. And one guy came up to him and said, may I borrow your shoe? May I borrow your shoe? I want to call home. So I think when we start looking at this whole idea of lightening up, Angelo needs to do it more than anybody else, believe me. You have to get into a building project for 9 years. But the fretting is what my goal is this year. Stop fretting. Stop worrying about everything. Take things as they come, lighten up, accept it for a passing situation, and let it go. Don't call home to Mother. You can call home to Martha, though, if you want to lighten things up. Now, the second major shift in consciousness, we're talking here, all of these things are a shift in our own consciousness. Is what do I need to do in my own consciousness to stop resisting my greater good that's always available to me? What do I need to do? The second one came from Eckhart Tolle, and some of you love Eckhart Tolle in The New Earth. That was his book. But what he said is we need to be aware of it. We need to identify what bothers us, what upsets us. Isn't that interesting as a change in consciousness? Why would I, as a movement conscious, why do I need to accept or see what? Because he said this, because who we think we are is determined, not necessarily by our actions, but it's determined by things in our life that mean something to us. And he says when something means something to you, it has the power to upset you and to create anger and distrust. If something's that important to you. So then he said, we need to identify what are all those things in my life that mean so much to me that can cause me to be upset. And then here's the thing, here's the shift here. The shift is, if little things upset me, then what do I think of myself? As small. If small things upset me, and then I'm into this smallness, then I've got a lower opinion of myself. And believe me, the universe does not raise the price. We set the price of what we think we are, and that's it. So what we need to do is